Okay, we're live on YouTube. Okay. All right. So I put the verse in the chat, and Krishna Daya Prabhu has mercifully agreed to do the invocation prayers. So should we do the verse first and then prayers, or prayers first and then the verse? Let's do the verse while we still have Krishna Daya. Who knows what's going to happen? Krishna Daya Prabhu, thank you so much. Okay. Hare Krishna. The floor is yours. We're live.
You want me to recite the verse, Prabhu?
Invocation. Yeah, the prayers and then the verse, if you can.
Om Ajnanatimrandhasya Dhyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 रामो राम रामो हरे हरे. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, the Summum and Bonum, Chapter 30, Verse 11. Apiyena patni upagata priyaya iha gatrais tanvandrisham sakhi sunirvritam achyuto vaham kantanga sanga kucha kunkumaranjitaya kundashraja kulapater ihavati gandha. Word meaning. Api, whether, Ena, of the deer, Patni, O wife, Upagata, has been encountered, Priyaya, together with his beloved, Iha, here, Gatrai, by his body limbs, Tanvan, producing, Drisham, of the eyes, Sakhi, O friend, Su Nirvritim, great pleasure, Achyuta, the infallible Lord Krishna, Vaha, your, Kanta, of his girlfriend, Anga Sanga, because of the physical contact, Kucha, on the breast, Kumkuma, by the vermilion powder, Ranjitaya, colored, Kunda, of jasmine flowers, Shraja, of the garland, Kula, of the group of gopis, Pate, of the master, Iha, around, Vati, is blowing, Gandha, the fragrance. Translation and purport by the disciples of Srila Prabhupada. O friend, wife of the deer, has Lord Achyuta has been here with his beloved, bringing great joy to your eyes? Indeed, blowing this way is the fragrance of his garland of kunda flowers, which was smeared with the kunkuma from the breast of his girlfriend when he embraced her. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti provides the following charming commentary on this verse. The gopis spoke to a doe, O friend, wife of deer, from the bliss in your clear eyes, we can tell that Sri Krishna has explained your joy with the beauty of his limbs, his face, and so forth. You are eager to realize the ecstasy of seeing Krishna, and thus your eyes are following him. In fact, he is never lost to you. Then the gopis, seeing the doe continue to walk in her natural way, exclaimed, "Oh, are you telling us that you have seen Krishna? Look, as this deer walks, she constantly turns her head back to us, as if to say, I will show him to you. Just follow me. I will show you Krishna." In this merciless Vrindavan, she is the only merciful person. As the gopis follow the doe, they happen to lose the sight of her, and they cry out, "Oh, why can't we see the deer who is showing us the way to Krishna?" One gopi suggests that Krishna must be somewhere in the vicinity and that the deer, being afraid of him, must have hidden herself to avoid the possible mistake of revealing his presence. Conjecturing in this way, the gopis detect a fragrance that has by chance blown their way, and they repeatedly declare with great joy, "Yes, yes, this is it." By Krishna's physical contact with his girlfriend, his jasmine garland was smeared with the kumkum powder on her breast, and the fragrances of all these things are reaching us. Thus, the gopis smell the aroma of the two lovers' bodies, of Krishna's jasmine garland, and then of the cosmetic powder on the breast of his lover. Jai Shri Prabhupada ki Jai.
Thank you so much, Krishna Jaya Prabhu. Looks like our dear Nanda Bahari Prabhu is driving, so yeah, he has to pay attention to the road. And I saw that our dear Ananda Manjari is here as well. So as Ananda Bihari Prabhu wrote in the chat, this is a community class. Raja Leela and Ekavira Prabhus aren't able to make it today, so we're all coming together and being encouraged to participate by sharing realizations, testimonies, reciting verses by heart, or cracking jokes, according to Ananda Bihari Prabhu. So, so we already have our first participant, Jamuna Jaya Prabhu. Please go ahead and unmute yourself and share.
Hi, well, good morning, everybody. Thank you, Damodar Priya. Still love just saying your name. One of the things that just when Krishna Jaya, and thank you, Krishna Jaya, for reading that so beautifully and clearly. One of the things that just sprung out at me is that the word conjecture, that the gopis were able to, we talk a lot about, don't fabricate, don't conjecture, don't you, because our minds are covered. We tend to, without right knowledge, speak out and can make assumptions and that aren't correct. But because the gopis are not us, and they have such a clear mind, they don't see things under the lens of material lust and envy and all those things. The way they look at things is so pure that they actually see rightly. Whereupon, as we know, we speak a lot about this 10th canto, just isn't for everybody to speak about, because the assumptions made would not be clear because we were looking through the lens of our own material contamination. So it was just really striking me that they are seeing rightly, because they don't have the contamination that we have. They're devoid of that. That's why there's no jealousy in them. And they see these interactions as what they are, pure spiritual. So that just really struck out to me when Krishna Daya was reading that. So, Haribol.
Thank you so much, Jamuna Jaya, for sharing that. And we have our dear Krishna Daya Prabhu. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Prabhu, for allowing me to read the purport. It is so deep and introspective, just like Jamuna Jaya Prabhu shared. It is 10:30:11. So in the purport, it comes like the deer is walking ahead and then she's turning back and then seeing at regular intervals. And the gopis are thinking, so that is like interpreting as, so have you seen Krishna? I will show him to you. Just follow me. I will show you Krishna. So I was just, like when Srila Prabhupada came, like most of us don't know about Krishna, even those who know, they know very little bit superficial. But, Srila Prabhupada is telling, just follow me, I will take you to Krishna. So that is what Srila Prabhupada as an Acharya, so whenever they come, so they have the entire essence, they know the way to Krishna. And then they just what the request is, please follow me, please follow me. That is it sufficient. In this merciless Vrindavan, it is written. Merciless means nobody is telling about Krishna. Vrindavan is the most merciful dham, but nobody is sharing about Krishna. It's secret, And then people are, those who are in search of Krishna, they are using the heavy word. It's merciless Vrindavan. So here, the world, very less Krishna Katha happens. And then when you approach the spiritual master who knows Krishna, they just say, please follow us. But after we get that spiritual master, what we say, sometimes, just like the gopis, they lost the contact with the deer. So similarly, sometimes, we should not lose track of spiritual master. So if you lose track, then we are again lost in the merciless place. So yeah, this is what we should always catch hold of the parampara, so that we can always have the hope to be connected with Krishna. Thank you for this.
Thank you, Krishna Daya Prabhu. And Vanisha Prabhu, you have your hands up?
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Just following on what Krishna Daya said, the image of Srila Prabhupada as the deer saying, follow me, I can show you where Krishna is, really resonates with me. And I've been watching that DVD series that's on YouTube, following Srila Prabhupada, that somebody in this class recommended. I would recommend it, echo that recommendation. It's wonderful, so nourishing. But in that, one of the devotees said, the early devotees who was with Srila Prabhupada said, we just followed him around. He was like the mother duckling, and we just followed him around like baby ducklings. Like we didn't even always know like where he was going or what he was doing or what the purpose was, but we just followed him wherever he went. And I love that mood of us being sort of baby ducklings following on the deer analogy, following Srila Prabhupada, that it's not even important. Like in that mood, the babies don't always know where the mother's going, but they just go. And I love that. I also love so much, this chapter is obviously beyond words, inspiring of how absorbed, and Jamuna Jaya, I can now only think of saying absorbed in a New York accent. I'm so absorbed. But I know, but it's so instructive in this verse how absorbed the gopis are, that obviously the separation that Krishna has arranged is intensifying their love, and they see Krishna literally in everything, every flower, every scent, every animal, every possible thing that they are experiencing through all of their senses is reminding them of Krishna, making them think of Krishna, raising their anticipation of when they might meet him again. And I feel like maybe it's an inspiration we can all take in our day to day to be in the mood of the gopis that way. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Vanisha Prabhu. And Jamuna Jaya Prabhu wrote in the chat, that was Adi's story of absorbed with the accent. So good.
Oh, that's right.
So, and I think that's a perfect segue to Adi Purusha Prabhu sharing, because I think you had your real hand up, not your virtual hand up. So,
Hare Krishna, can you hear me okay? Yeah? So, in theological circles, there's a controversy. People see the Lord in different ways. Some people focus on the transcendental nature, that God is way up there, way high, we're down here and he's up there. And then there's the idea that the Lord is immanent, that he is involved, concerned, and, had his finger in every pie in our lives. And so there's a verse Adantarasa paramano chayantarasam, Goloka eva nivisata lakabuto. It says that the Lord he's in Goloka Vrindavan, but also he's here within and between every atom. Simultaneously, he's there and he's also here. So it's not just it's this or that, but he has both aspects. And like you said, like Ganesha just said, that the gopis, they saw Krishna everywhere. And Prabhupada gives the analogy. Suppose a mother sees her baby's shoes. Oh, my baby, Or we see Prabhupada's watch, Prabhupada's watch, Prabhupada's slippers, By seeing the paraphernalia of the individual, it impresses on our mind the thought of that person. So the saying is, another saying from scripture, that since Krishna is the reservoir of all beauty, if we see Krishna everywhere, we'll see beauty everywhere. Right? That actually, how wonderful is Krishna, that, they have so much love for him, and the creation attracts us to the Creator, that he's the one who's made these flowers, these mountains, this river, this ocean, these trees, that Krishna is just a wonderful cause of all causes and the source of all this, and how beautiful, how wonderful, how kind Krishna is, showing his love to us by manifesting all these different things in our life and caring for us. Anyways, just more glories to Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Adipurusha Prabhu. I think what you just said reminds me very much of what your dear God sister Rukmini Waka Prabhu is always speaking of, how gratitude makes space for Krishna's grace, so that when we're in that space of gratitude and we're able to see all the things that Krishna has, blessed us with and gifted us with, then we're able to see his love everywhere, see his love in the actions of others and the things around us in nature. So that's really beautiful. Thank you so much. Does anybody else have some realization or a question regarding either what the verse was or what others have shared today that they want to share? If not, I have a paragraph from the Krishna book that was written by our dear Srila Prabhupada that I think would be really interesting for us to read, if I don't knock my phone over. So it's from the Krishna book, and where Srila Prabhupada asked the question, some ask, if Krishna is self-sufficient, why did he at all manifest the pastimes with the gopis, which are disturbing to the so-called moralists of the world? The answer is that such activities show special mercy to the fallen conditioned souls. The gopis are expansions of his internal energy, but because Krishna wanted to exhibit the Rasa Leela, they appeared as ordinary human beings. In the material world, pleasure is ultimately manifested in the sex attraction between man and woman. The man lives simply to be attracted by women, and the woman lives simply to be attracted by men. This is the basic principle of material life. And as soon as these attractions are combined, people become more and more implicated in material existence. So in order to show them special favor, Krishna exhibited this Rasa Leela dance. It is just to captivate the conditioned souls. Since they are very much attracted by sex, they can enjoy the same life with Krishna and thus become liberated from the material condition. In the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Maharaj Parikshit also explains that the pastimes and activities of Lord Krishna are medicine for the conditioned souls. If they simply hear about Krishna, they become relieved of the material disease. They are addicted to material enjoyment and are accustomed to reading sex literature. But by hearing these transcendental pastimes of Krishna with the gopis, they will be relieved of material contamination. So I thought that was such a beautiful paragraph from Srila Prabhupada on such a challenging subject, where he addresses, that question that comes up, why bring up this topic if it's so disturbing to people? And again, it just comes down to Krishna being so merciful. Like, how wonderful is Krishna that he understands our weaknesses and what we're attracted to. And then he says, exhibits them a special favor. So this is a special favor, a special mercy from Krishna to captivate the conditioned souls. So I just thought that was so beautiful. that like Krishna is such a radical personalist, as we've heard other people say before, that he's going to try to come to us in every single different way to try to captivate us and bring us back to Godhead. So I just thought that was so beautiful. Does anybody else have anything that they would like to share? Questions, realizations, or transcendental Krishna jokes, as Nanda Bihari Prabhu said? Yep, Venetia, please go ahead.
I might be overstaying my welcome here, but I've been thinking a lot about this. It's how I would throw it out as a question to the group, like how do we channel our lust in an appropriate way? That Krishna, as you say, is providing us this mercy, because we all have lust, we all have desire, but it's obviously not that we're supposed to be fantasizing about Krishna in a physical sort of romance novel kind of way. But how do we? Sometimes I envision it just like when I feel the energy arising, I feel like literally physically just channeling it towards Krishna, rather than to whatever else it might normally fall on in a conditioned life. But I'm just curious, recognizing it's a little bit of a sensitive subject, like how other people understand we are to channel our lust, because that's how I hear what you're reading in the Krishna book. It's like we're explicitly supposed to, Krishna's giving us this opportunity to not just repress that feeling, but to exhibit it or experience it either vicariously through these pastimes, or what? Like, how do people perceive that we're supposed to feel with it?
Thank you, Venetia, for your vulnerability and for being able to share that question. And I saw that Jamuna Jaya Prabhu had her hand up. Did you have something on this that you wanted to share, Jamuna Jaya?
No, I was going to make another point. I really love to hear what Adi has to say about that, because I feel very unqualified to touch that. But I'd love to hear what Adi has to say about that.
Well, the advertising industry, they present a product and they show you, this soap, they take a white shirt and they put blueberries on it, so you get a blueberry stain. And then they use this soap, and this soap will make it clean again, So you hear about a product, you hear about what it does, then you desire it, then you go buy it. So Krishna's presenting, we can say, Krishna, everybody has desire. What I want is pure love for this person. Everyone has love, but what I really want, and we desire it, and then Krishna will bring that. He's granting everyone's desire. Nityo Nityananam, Chaitanya is Chaitanyanam. Of all the eternal living entities, there is one supreme eternal living entity, Eko Bahuyam Yovitatadikama. He's granting everyone's desire. So you get what you ask for. And if you know what's available, you know what to ask for, and then we'll get it. Why not? Pure love. Wow, that's cool. That's what I want, right? Does that help? Could you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can.
It does. I guess it's not so much, not about feeling lust for other people. And I understand what you're saying about asking for that to be transformed into pure love, but it's more about what is appropriate lust for Krishna. And is that what we're asking to be transformed into pure love?
Good question. What our lust for Krishna is not, what she gave class yesterday, Jamuna Jaya said, my happiness is to see my beloved pleased. So when we're pleasing, that's what the gopis were like. They didn't want to go enjoy Krishna. They wanted to go and please him. They wanted themselves to him. They wanted to do something that would make him happy, and that was their happiness. So Krishna says, no one is more dear to me than one who gives this to someone else. So by giving Krishna consciousness, when we said, Prabhupada, how can we thank you? He said, if you want to thank me, then give what I gave to you to someone else. And that will be the way I'm asking you to thank me. And that's what Krishna's pleased by. So if we really, really focus on that, how can we give it? Then
Yeah.
Let's pour our heart out for that, in that direction, right?
Yeah. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
That makes sense?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Adipurusha Prabhu, for taking that question. And I see that Bhima Prabhu had his hand up, and then Ananda Manjari Prabhu. So please, in that order. Oh, it looks like we lost Bhima Prabhu. So Ananda Manjari, that's your cue.
Hare Krishna. I wanted to add to the previous question of what I've understood. And it's first of all that like we can still read very intimate pastimes of the divine couple, and even though they may, through our conditioning, seem what we are familiar with from like romance, it actually is completely pure, and so it already purifies us even when we are just engaging with reading that. And because Krishna is all pure, it essentially means that when we read about him, or when we chant about him, or when we think about him, even in such ways, it's impossible for our mind and our heart not to become transformed. And so that already is a saving grace, as a progression. And even like it's said that a wife follows her husband, and I feel like naturally it also comes of this idea of like, if there is a desire to have Supreme Personality of Godhead as my husband, it's like, what do I need to do as a devotee to even really step up to this position? And that kind of already curbs down and brings natural humility as well. And so I feel that in a way it's really beautiful that there's always kind of this natural solution for purifying our senses and getting there. And also I heard that was specifically that is specifically employed in like brahmacharini ashram, and especially for brahmacharis, which tend to have different intensity of specific desires. And that just using our bodies, it's like, because we are engaging our physical form and really doing service, like that naturally also curbs like the more the lust that we just have in general, not even towards the Lord. And so these two things I've heard, and I myself experienced that they are generally very helpful. So thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Ananda Manjari Prabhu. And Nanda Bihari Prabhu, were you waving your hand that you wanted to share? No. I can't understand you. It's okay. But Bhima Prabhu is back. Bhima Prabhu, you had your hand up before. Did you want to share because you got disconnected?
Haribo, thank you for having an open class like this. It's very welcome. It brings us closer together. I sort of was in and out of class because of the reception, but I was instantly reminded of the fact that when we were talking about the deer, the doe leading on, and I can't remember who it was because once again it was breaking up, said that Prabhupada would be like the deer leading us on. And I thought that, of course, was so appropriate, that the deer would, and you notice that the deer leads them at least to the point where they can get a scent of Krishna and Radharani. And that's sort of like what we have with Ruchi, the taste in Krishna consciousness, that philosophically speaking, or service-wise, we are giving some practical thing to do, something to occupy us. And then by virtue of that, like Adi said, Krishna becomes pleased because he can see our serious endeavor. We might not have any idea. I remember when I was a bhakta, actually, even now, no idea, how Krishna, who Krishna is and how Krishna is working in my life. But then the more service you do, the more you abandon yourself, surrender to things that you may or may not want to do for the sake of the devotees, and therefore for the sake of Krishna, that there's that ruchi, that scent that Krishna wafts our way, that we actually, it's kind of in mystical literature, it's called ineffable. It's sort of unspeakable. that scent that actually Krishna is present here now. I'm sure everybody's had, that's why we are steady, dhira, we're steady in Krishna consciousness, not because we've been so philosophically convinced, at least for myself, because I'm not a philosophical person, but that I've been convinced by a series of small little miracles of Krishna's reciprocation, of being led somewhere close to the scent of Krishna. And that keeps us steady. And we keep searching for that scent. We see it in kirtan. We see it in when we have a good day of service. In answer to who asked the question about this sublimation or the correct usage of lust for Krishna? Venetia. I can only speak from experience. When I was a young bhakta, 23 years old, leaving college, I was an athlete, I was in perfect health, and I was a brahmachari for 10 years, but not a brahmachari on a farm, hidden away. We were very much in the mode of passion. People who were at New Vrindavan were super in the mode of passion. That's why we were on a farm. But we were out on the road, we were out in the world, but we were 100% engaged. I mean, it was literally the battlefield of Kurukshetra with us. And because we were one, and I remember, this is a remembrance, I remember being so engaged in my service on the mission that despite being somebody who was very naturally driven, lusty, a young man, with copins, out in the world, pulled tight, but you're out there and you're talking to girls all day long. That's what we did. We were in malls. We were talking to young ladies all day long. We were going to dorms, female dorms, co-ed dorms and stuff. But we were never, the majority of us were not really disturbed because we were just so involved in service. So we felt, and of course, when we got up in the morning, because we knew that we were going out into the battlefield, we chanted like madmen. I remember every single Sankirtan devotee would strap the holy name around us, our rounds, because we were all close within the van, and also, in the parking lots or at a park chanting. We would chant as if we were applying armor. Like everybody grinded Krishna's name between our teeth. We were just really, really dependent upon our the holy name to protect us from the world, which was very much in your face, when you were out there as a brahmachari, in the malls, even sometimes working bars, etc. And I know that this, Bhakti Center doesn't want to hear about these old days, but this is what we had to do to build New Vrindavan. And we did it with gusto, and we did it with our passion, and we did it with our lust, and we were always engaged, and the majority of us were never disturbed. And yet you saw so many sannyasis and gurus, for that matter, who were all, in the temples or, dressed to the nines with their tilak and their things, and yet somehow it got to them. So if we can remain engaged in Krishna's service, if we can find a mission, if we can pray to Krishna for some kind of mission to engage our lust, which is an energy only. Lust is simply energy heading downward rather than energy heading upward. If we can engage that energy that Krishna gives us in our youth upwardly to the heart and to our throat and to the tongue with Krishna's name, then we will find ourselves not bothered by being dragged into the world, because we'll be too busy going in the opposite direction. That was my experience, and I'm sticking to it. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Bhima Prabhu. And you know what? It's actually really, really helpful to hear that practical experience, because I've heard this so many times that if we're just philosophy, it's like in our heads. And it's that practical kind of application of the philosophy in our lives, which you exemplified by sharing that anecdote, that brings it down into our hearts. And when it's in our hearts, that's where it can make a difference. And just before I call on you, Ananda Manjari Prabhu, I just wanted to share Jamuna Jaya Prabhu's comment in the chat, since she had to step away. She said, I have to hop off because my students are starting to arrive, but wanted to say that a community class is such a great way to please our love as a community, as my guru says, is a group coming together to serve something higher than the individual needs, as opposed to a crowd where people are just out to please themselves. Hare Krishna, everyone. So just such a beautiful explanation of that a community is a group coming together to serve something higher than the individual needs, as opposed to just us being a crowd of people who are just here to serve ourselves. Ananda Manjari, did you want to go ahead and share? Ananda
Yes,
Manjari, yeah, there you go.
Yes, I just figuring the phone. I wanted to actually kind of reflect back, and what I've heard from Bhima Prabhu as a very important principle is to, first of all, just acknowledge our standing and our weaknesses. That it's like, oh yes, I have naturally those desires and they're agitated in those ways. How can I protect myself from my senses being less agitated? And how can I use it as a fuel to cry out to Krishna, realizing like, actually, Krishna, only you can help me to subdue my mind and subdue my senses. And any other way, I'm just going to be, like dragged around like I have been. And that also reminds me of the pastime of Srila Prabhupada, that he would come before the altar and he said like, I will never fall down. And then he would come before the altar and then he would pray intensely. And then one of the disciples asked him, like, Prabhupada, what are you praying so intensely for? And he said, I pray that I don't fall down. And I feel that that's really important instruction, that to be constantly vigilant and aware of our need to cry out for shelter, and to know that we are continuously in actually truly dire conditions. And so that's my big takeaway. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Ananda Manjari Prabhu. You know what, you sharing that just briefly makes me think about how during my Harinam initiation that happened on Tuesday, how both the gurus, they mentioned that one of the big ways for us to really keep our initiation vows is by relying on the support of our, like the Vaishnavis and the Vaishnavas, like just like the community. Like it's through that community, like it takes a village for us to grow our bhakti and to continue on it. So thank you so much. Does Bhima Prabhu, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that when somebody said, when I first came on class, they were in the, I believe it was Krishna Das was reading the purport, and he said the deer. And I don't know why, I just thought I heard the dear devotees. And it just, sort of segued into the fact that one of the things that we find when we are on our mission or engaged in service is that more often than not, we find ourselves around the dear devotees. And that's another way to protect ourselves. In fact, one of the strongest ways to protect ourselves is to make sure that we have sadhu sangha, that somehow we get into the association of devotees, especially having projects. We're not going to find ourselves in trouble if we're around other people who are not getting in trouble, who are not wanting to get in trouble. And you have that sort of oversight in that company of other devotees. What Maya does, one of the first things she does is she makes you independent. She separates you out, sort of like a wolf does in a herd. They will separate out the weak animal, the weak deer or whatever in the herd. They'll separate that and then take it down. So that's how Maya. So one of that, you might not even think that you the first thing you do is you find some fault somewhere with the devotees, and then you decide not to go to the temple, or you decide not to go to do your service, or you decide not to come to class, and then Maya has separated you out, and that's how she takes you down. Because you need something, you need somebody to be around, you need something to occupy your mind, you need some place to put your energy. And so what happens is Maya gives you alternatives, and those alternatives are the world. And then you find yourself in trouble. So we should always understand that if we are not feeling good, then get yourself into the company of the dear devotees, because they will take you to the scent of Krishna. And then once you catch that scent, then you won't be turning back. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear Bhima Prabhu, our resident poet, always bringing in that poetry. Yeah, so let us be the dear devotees and guide each other to Krishna. So we have about 4 minutes left before hopefully we have darshan. And I think Krishna Jaya Prabhu, you have your hand up.
Thank you, Prabhu. And thank you, Bhima Prabhu. And especially the previous point when he was making, so he was telling about that fragrance. Even in the purport at the end, they mentioned about the fragrance of interaction between Krishna and the topmost gopi. So the fragrance is mixed, and that fragrance the other gopis are able to feel. And then they understood this is, they are being directed towards Krishna. So often we, most of us, how we came in touch or in contact with Krishna consciousness is like some devotees are chanting ecstatically, and then we hear the Harinam, and then we say, oh, this is wonderful. And then, so that particular interaction of the gopi and Krishna, we think it's very esoteric, but often Srila Prabhupada translated that in this world as Harinam, simple Harinam. It's Harinam. And then, hearing that Harinam, so we are being dragged towards Krishna, directed towards Krishna. And then often Srila Prabhupada also said, this Bhaktivedanta purports are his devotional, spiritual ecstasies, his interaction with Krishna, he's penning down them. And then in fact, sometimes he said it's Krishna himself is writing. And then based on those purports, every day we are having such nice discussions, this community classes, and then all those things. So it's all like that particular interaction with the Krishna and his great topmost devotees is like translated in this current world as Harinam and Bhaktivedanta purports. So yeah, thank you so much. This is what I want to say.
Thank you, Krishna Jaya Prabhu. Yes, this is such an example of this community class of how we can all support each other. And Bruce Prabhu, you have your hand up. Please go ahead and share.
Good morning, Hare Krishna. I'm sharing this on the grace of Bhima Prabhu, who's by his wonderful generosity, I was able to procure a set of Devi Dasi's books. And as she asked us if we get the books to promise to read them. So I just would like to share this real quick. I've been struggling with my japa, been struggling with my sadhana, and I read this yesterday that really has encouraged me so much. It says, when the day transforms into night, it is a gradual process with a transition period of dusk and dawn. It does not happen from one second to another. Likewise, it requires a gradual internal transformation and transition period to transform the day of the materialist into the night of the spiritualist. This transformation requires conscious effort and endeavor and will not happen by itself automatically. Unless we consciously endeavor for this transition, we easily hang on to our material tastes and likes. Spiritual culture facilitates this very transformation by offering us a certain frame to act accordingly, and thus transform materialistic habits into spiritually uplifting and empowering habits. So just wanted to share that. I find that so powerful and beautiful. Hare Krishna.
Did you mute it?
Thank you so much for sharing, Bruce Prabhu.
Show it there.
I hope. Oh yes, we are going to have darshan. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. It's open. They can hear it. Make sure it's pointed in the right direction.
We can pray to Radha Murlidhar so we don't fall down today.
And be absorbed.
I think it's playing here and here. Did I do something?
It's playing there.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I gotta go.
All right, Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Is there anything that also would like to be shared, or any more questions or comments or reflections? Did Radha Muridar give you any inspiration now?
They were in white for pure love.
Thank you. Well, if there are no more questions or comments, thank you so much for coming today and for participating in this class and bringing our hearts together And I wish you a beautiful, wonderful day, connecting with the holy name, and yeah, really feeling that life that we are able to access. So see you all tomorrow. Please come. It keeps going and gets better and better. And I love you all.
Thank you very much, dear devotees.
Hare Krishna.